Hello everyone, welcome to my reading wrap-up for September, and I did manage to get through 6 books in September, and the book I'm reading right now I thought was perfect for the autumn, and it's called Wicked Autumn, and this is by G.M. Mallet, and this is the first book in the Max Tudor mystery, and this is quite a cozy read, actually, despite the title, and this takes place in a very small English village. And Max Tudor is the vicar there, and he actually used to work for the M15, which is, now if you're from Britain, just, you can correct me, but I think M15 is similar to like the CIA or FBI in the States. And yeah, he's seen a lot, and he was just sick and tired of it, so he did a complete 180 and became a vicar in the small village. And there is a death in the village, and they think it was like an accidental death, but Max Tudor, with his background, thinks it was murder. And so the police get involved, and throughout the story, we're finding out along the way who could have murdered this president of the Women's Institute. There's a lot of suspects because no one liked this woman, so there is quite a few suspects. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. And just before we start, from Awesome Books, I was, which is an online British new and used bookstore, I did purchase a C.J. Tudor book. Now, I've read about 3 of her books in the past, and I've always enjoyed them. I really do like her stories, and I think each book I always give like a 4 stars. So, and I've been wanting to purchase this book, and I found it used on Awesome Books, and that is The Gathering. And yeah, it's a very, very spooky. I'm going to say this for the winter time because it takes place in Alaska during the winter. And it says, "Welcome to Dead Heart, Alaska. Population 673 living." So I believe this is like a vampire book, I think. Just sort of isolated setting in the winter time. So yeah, I've been really looking forward to getting this one. And the other one I got off Awesome Books was Wild Acre, which is a Christmas ghost story. And again, save this one for winter. So Jessica is looking for a live-in care over the Christmas period, and Isla is the woman who takes the job. And yeah, it's a very remote country home. There's a storm, and yeah, things don't go well. So yeah, looking forward to reading those in the wintertime. Alrighty, so I'll go to the books that I read this month, or last month. The first book is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murders by Jessie Q. Santanto. And this follows a 60-year-old widow from a Chinese woman, and she is very lonely. She runs a tea shop that doesn't have a lot of customers. Her son, she has one son who doesn't visit very often, and she's always nagging him to come visit her and that sort of thing. And yeah, the funny part is she's 60, and people keep calling her an old woman. One person called her an old frail woman. And I'm like, I'm 60, and I don't feel like I'm an old woman, but anyway. Besides that, so one morning she comes downstairs and finds a dead body in her tea shop, and she calls the police, but before she gets there, she does take a piece of evidence from the body because she thinks she can do a better job than the police at solving this murder. And she wants to use this piece of evidence to sort of lure the killer out into the open. And 4 people come out into the open, the victim's wife, the victim's brother, and a couple other people who knew the victim, and she tries to solve the murder. And yeah, it was fun. It was humorous in parts. It was kind of sad in parts because she is very lonely and bored. She's worried that what's she going to do if her tea shop has to shut down, that sort of thing. So yeah, it was actually it was fun, and yeah, I think the next book is coming out in 2025, so I would definitely definitely read that one. So yeah, she's sort of the stereotypical Chinese mother. She has to get into the business. She wants to nag everyone. She's kind of bossy in that. So yeah, it was a fun book to read. I give that about a 4-star. The next book is The Hiking Trip by Jenny Blackhurst. So sort of read this in the beginning of September when it was still pretty hot out. Well, still kind of warm out. But this has 2 timelines. So this British backpacker goes to British Columbia, and she was going to do some backpacking along this trail with a friend, but her friend dropped out last minute. So she decided, well, I'm going to go and on my own on this trip. And she meets this couple on the trail, and one day the one woman that she is hiking with just disappears, and they search for her and she's never found again. And then 20 years later, Laura, who's the main character, finds out that they found a body on this trail, and she wonders if it was this woman that she was hiking with. And yeah, there's a lot of twists and turns. Like I said, it goes back and forth between present and the past. And yeah, a lot of things come out. It's kind of an unreliable narrator, and yeah, things just keep coming out. It gets more twisty, and so yeah, I actually enjoyed that one. Give that a 4-star. And then this is The Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu. And this takes place in the future in Edinburgh, Scotland. And the protagonist is 14 years old. So it is a YA fiction. She acts much older at times than 14. Now, this is never really fully explained in the book. If it's post-apocalyptic, if it's dystopian, but society has somehow kind of crumbled anyhow. And everyone greets each other by saying, "God save the king," kind of thing. So it sounds like at some point there was like the royalists against the parliament and the king won. So it's never completely explained what has happened. But and I don't know how far into the future this goes. And so there's a lot of people that are homeless. The police are a little bit corrupt, and yeah, society is just not the same anyhow. And this young 14-year-old Ropa is living with her grandmother and her younger brother, and she makes a living by speaking to the dead, which is not unusual. In this future time, it's quite usual for people to hire her to speak to dead relatives and communicate with the dead and that sort of thing. So that's how she makes her living. And then she stumbles upon the Library of the Dead, which is underground. And I wish that was expanded on a little bit more. Like we do a couple times go into the Library of the Dead, but it's never, I just wish it was covered a little bit more. And yeah, there's a mystery behind this. She's asked by a ghost to find her son. He's disappeared, and she's very anxious to find out what's happened to him. And she's not getting paid, but she finally sort of gets into what's happened to this young boy. And yeah, I think the author's trying to do a lot all at once. And for me, and this is just me, it was hard to read about Edinburgh because that is my favorite city of all time. I love Edinburgh. And to hear about this dystopian kind of society, for me, was kind of hard to read about. Yeah, it was trying to do a lot of different things. I give it about a 3-star. I do have the second and third book. I probably should have waited, but anyway, I for some reason I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens. And hopefully they'll get more into this Library of the Dead, because it is quite interesting. So anyway, yeah, about a 3-star. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. All right, the next book is The Foundling by Anne Leary. And so Anne Leary, she looked into her ancestry and found out her grandmother worked in one of these institutes, and it was actually called the State Village for Feeble-Minded Women of Childbearing Age. So when she read that her grandmother was like a secretary in one of these institutes, she kind of looked into it more. So this story takes place in 1927, and this young woman, Mary, decides she wants to become a secretary, and she was living in an orphanage till she was about 12, and she was taken in by a relative, and then she became a secretary and went to one of these institutes. And she found out that these women have to stay in these institutes till menopause, basically. And so there's a lot of young... So this is sort of based on eugenics, which is, well, if you're familiar with Hitler, he wanted like a pure society, and he wanted to kill the Jews, the blacks, homosexuals, gypsies, mentally and physically disabled people, to make a pure society. So that's basically what eugenics is. So there's a lot of forced sterilization in North America and Europe. If you were found to be feeble-minded or physically or mentally disabled, you were forcibly and voluntarily sterilized. Now, the one thing about this particular book and this institute that she covers is they didn't do the sterilization, but what they would do is they would get young girls and young women and force them into these institutes, and they would be kept there until they hit menopause, when they could no longer have children. So it was filled with these women who, some perhaps were physically, mentally disabled, others were not. If they had a child out of wedlock, for example, or their behaviors, the family didn't like their behaviors, they were sent to these institutes to basically live there for decades until they hit menopause, when they can no longer breed anymore. So yeah, I knew about the sterilization, the involuntary sterilization, but I didn't know about these institutes, which would just basically keep these young girls and women in there for decades. Didn't do it to men, but did it to these women. So this Mary, who becomes a secretary to this doctor, she finds it fine at first, like, okay, fine. And then she finds out that one of her friends from the orphanage, who's not feeble-minded at all, is in there, and they would be... there's like a farm on there, and there's people who sewed and people who were sent out to become housekeepers for families, but they were never paid. So they did all this very hard labor for no pay for decades. And at the end, she decides that this is not acceptable. So yeah, it was very eye-opening and pretty horrific what happened in the past. So yeah, I give that a 4.5 stars. And this is, Frank's home from a fishing trip, so the puppies are quite happy. So this is Belladonna. This is a YA fiction, and this follows 19-year-old Signa, who is an orphan. And she was orphaned at quite a young age. I think she was a baby. And throughout the years, she was raised by various guardians who kept dying. One guardian would look after her for a while and die, and then she'd be passed on to another guardian. And many of them just wanted her money, because when she turned 20, she will receive quite an inheritance. So at one point, the only living relatives she has left to live with are the Hawthorns. So she is sent to this manor home of the Hawthorns. And so the wife has just recently passed away, and her daughter is quite sick with the same disease. So Signa tries to figure out how to help this young girl. And along the way, she actually makes an alliance with Death, who's been around since the beginning of time. And So yeah, she makes an alliance with death anyhow. It's kind of a bizarre relationship. That's one thing that was kind of weird about this book, was just the relationship between herself and death. But anyway, she tries to solve some of the weird happenings around there. It is spooky, it's gothic, other than the relationship with death, which was just a little bit odd. I did enjoy it, and I do have the second book, and I give that about 3.75 stars. And then the last book I read was A Dreadful Splendor by B.R. Myers. And this takes place in Victorian London, and Genevieve poses as a spiritualist. So she goes into wealthy people's homes to do seances, to speak to their dead relatives, and she's of course swindling and scamming these people out of their money and possessions. And one evening she is caught and she's sent to jail, and she knows if she doesn't get out of this, she is going to hang for it. And then this benefactor for this wealthy gentleman on this isolated manor comes and takes her out of jail and says, if you come to my master's manor and do a seance, I can hopefully keep you out of jail. And so she goes there and finds out that the master of this manor, his fiance died the night before their wedding. And a lot of spooky things happen. You don't know if there's paranormal or someone's doing these weird effects or not. So she is trying to find out the mystery of what actually happened to this woman the night before her wedding. So it is very spooky, very gothic, very page-turning. I really did enjoy this one. I give this like a 4.5 stars. All right, that's it. That's my reading wrap-up. Oop, gotta cool off. Just want to say goodbye. Yeah, looking forward to October reading. I got a lot of really gothic, spooky, haunted house books to read. I got some really good spooky mysteries to read. So happy October reading, and we'll see you soon.